Hey everyone, I'm ready to read chapter 2. We got kiddos playing in the yard, dogs barking. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And it's kind of cold. What's going on? I have a sweater on and I'm still a little chilly. If it weren't for the glare, I'd be dragging my chair over to the sun. It's cold. What's going on? I guess spring is kind of like that up and down. So we read chapter 1 yesterday, which was basically just been a lot of the chapter recapping book 1, which a lot of authors will do if you read a lot of sequels. Kind of recap chapter 1, and Annabelle kind of is in this thought process of being kind of stuck. She's like, oh, I want to be adventurous and fun, but I'm not as adventurous and fun as Tiffany. I'm breakable, have to be more careful. Kind of feeling a little sorry for herself. It was kind of weird. But then at the very end of chapter 1 yesterday, I remember she said if she didn't like feeling left out, she was going to have to do something about it. So she was going to, but she didn't know what that something would be. So now we're on chapter 2, which is called A Mission. Okay. Annabelle was relieved when the next morning Kate remembered to open up the dollhouse before she left for school. Annabelle had enjoyed having a family sing-along the night before and being able to chant R-E-S-P-E-C-T a little more loudly than usual, but she had missed visiting with Tiffany. Now, back on her bed where she had been placed by Kate after the soap dish rescue, Annabelle lay quietly, listening to the morning sounds of the Palmer's house. She heard voices in the kitchen as Kate and Nora and their parents and Grandma Catherine ate breakfast. So here we see she's just laying in her bed where Kate placed her. Then she heard the doors open and close as one by one the humans left the house. Mr. and Mrs. Palmer went off to their jobs, Kate left for 4th grade, and Nora for kindergarten, and finally Grandma Catherine left to run errands. All clear? Annabelle called a few moments later. All clear, replied Papa Doll. Annabelle leaped off of her bed and ran down the stairs of the dollhouse to the first floor. She sat at the edge of the parlor, her legs dangling over the side. Far below her was the floor of Kate's room. I wonder where Tiffany is, she said to Auntie Sarah, who sat nearby, scribbling in the pages of her journal. She didn't try to come over last night. Probably left behind in the bathtub, Auntie Sarah replied. This was true. Poor Tiffany and her family, after enjoying games in the tub with Nora, were occasionally left there until the next time someone wanted to take a bath. So there's Auntie Sarah writing in her journal, and Annabelle's looking over her shoulder. And as fearless and talented as they were not able to climb up the slippery sides of the tub to escape. Annabelle was disappointed about Tiffany, but glad to have a moment with her aunt. She stood behind her and peered at the pages of the journal, the very same journal that Annabelle had found all those months ago, the clues in which had led her and Tiffany to the attic and the reunion with Auntie Sarah. On its pages, Auntie Sarah recorded her adventures and discoveries, most of which involved spiders. Fascinating to Auntie Sarah and terrifying to Annabelle. I'm with Annabelle. What's that? Asked Annabelle, looking at her aunt's drawings of legs and eyes and abdomens. Amerobius feryx? Amerobius feryx, or the black lace weaver, was the spider for which Auntie Sarah had been searching when she had become trapped in the attic. Annabelle was pleased with herself for remembering its Latin name. No, replied Auntie Sarah, setting down the teeny fountain pen that had been added to the dollhouse in 1931. This is the nursery web spider, Dolometus tenebrosus. It's absolutely enormous. It's not seen very often, and it's partial to aquatic habitats, but it's native to eastern North America, and I'm determined to glimpse one with my own eyes someday. One never knows what you might find. Annabelle shuddered. She didn't like pictures of spiders, let alone face-to-face meetings with live ones. I think I'll go on an exploration to the attic tonight if that's possible, Auntie Sarah continued. Would you and Tiffany like to come with me? An exploration to look for an absolutely enormous, probably hairy spider? A spider hunt, really. Annabelle shuddered again, but she said bravely, Sure. If Auntie Sarah and Tiffany were going on a spider hunt, then Annabelle wanted to go with them. The doll's house sat on a shelf in a corner of Kate's room, and below it was a small wooden stool 4 steps high. When Kate was younger, she had used the stool to reach the top floor of the house. She no longer needed it, but she left it out there anyways, and Annabelle was glad. Without the stool, the dolls would have been stranded in their home, high above the floor. With the stool, they could venture beyond Kate's room, which Annabelle and Auntie Sarah and Bobby did frequently. The other dolls were content to stay put. On the night after Miami Beach A Go-Go, Annabelle waited until she was sure the humans were in their beds and sound asleep. Then she stood up from the uncomfortable position in which Kate had left her in the kitchen of the dollhouse, and called to Auntie Sarah, who was lying on the dining room table. "Can we go now?" she asked. She was determined to appear excited about the prospect of finding Dolomitus tenebrosus. "I think so," replied Auntie Sarah. She slid stiffly off the table. "Let's go see if Tiffany's back in Nora's room." Annabelle and her dolls called goodbye to the rest of the dolls, made their way down the steps of the stool, and darted across the floor of Kate's darkened room. They were rounding the corner into the hallway when they heard a small shout. It was Tiffany. "Hey," she called, "where are you going?" "To the attic," replied Auntie Sarah, "on an exploration. Can you join us?" "Definitely." Tiffany took Annabelle's hand as they hurried along the hallway toward the attic door. "Nora didn't remember to take us out of the bathtub until tonight," she said. "I love Miami Beach A-Go-Go, but I don't know if it's worth getting stuck in the tub. What are we looking for in the attic?" "Dolomitus tenebrosus," Annabelle said proudly. "Right, Auntie Sarah?" "That's right. Dolomitus tenebrosus is an especially large spider, Tiffany. It's mainly an outdoor spider, but does come inside occasionally. I think I might have seen one while I was stuck in the attic, but it's a little hard to tell. I was trapped in there for such a long time, I never knew whether I was dreaming or—" Auntie Sarah's voice trailed off, and Annabelle knew her aunt's mind had jumped to another topic. She said nothing, though, because they had reached the door to the attic, which was usually left ajar, and they needed to concentrate in order to pull it out far enough to slither through the opening. When they were on the other side of the door, they began the long climb up the stairs to the attic. At the top, they lay together in a heap, panting. Each step was taller than the dolls, so the climb involved lots of pulling and pushing and puffing. So here's a picture of the three of them headed on their adventure. Now, if you remember the first book, there's no way Annabelle's parents would have let her go on an exploration like this in the beginning of the first book, but thankfully, since we have Auntie Sarah back, they loosened up a little bit. "All right," said Auntie Sarah after a few moments. "All right," repeated Tiffany. "Now, what does what does this spider look like?" "It's enormous," said Annabelle. "Yes, it's quite large." Auntie Sarah's voice trailed off again. "Girls, there's something else." She paused. "I've not mentioned this to anyone." "What? What is it?" cried Tiffany. Annabelle, who had an idea that something else concerned spiders, said nothing. "Well, it's an idea I've been working on," said Auntie Sarah. "Come, sit down with me." Auntie Sarah led Annabelle and Tiffany through the dusty attic, which was lit only by a sliver of moonlight shining through the single small window on the far wall. They passed old cartons and discarded furniture and rolls of carpet, and finally stopped at a very old pile of rags. So there's a picture of them sitting together. Auntie Sarah patted it. "Very comfy," she said. The girls sat down, one on either side of Auntie Sarah. Tiffany was wiggling with excitement. "What's your idea? What is it?" "It is my dream," Auntie Sarah began slowly, "to start a spider farm." "What?" cried Annabelle, leaping to her feet. She put a hand to her mouth. "What do you want a spider farm for?" Tiffany asked reasonably. "It has occurred to me," said Auntie Sarah, "that I could harvest the silk produced by spiders to make nearly invisible ropes and ladders and nets. Then even timid dolls like your parents, Annabelle, would feel more comfortable leaving the house. For instance, at times like last night when Kate locked us in, we could still get outside. We could just lower a ladder, an almost invisible one, out a window and climb down to the floor." Annabelle stared at her aunt. She had to admit that this really was a brilliant idea. Auntie Sarah was just like those famous women she was always telling Annabelle about, Madame Curie and Harriet Tubman and Amelia Earhart. "Are you sure that would work?" asked Tiffany. "Positive," replied Auntie Sarah. "Spider silk is extremely strong. A single strand of it can be stronger than a strand of steel. Plus, it's stretchier than nylon, so it would be good for nets." "Wow," said Tiffany. "Do you want Dolomitus tenebrosus for the farm?" asked Annabelle. "Oh, no, I'm just curious about him. What I'd really like for the farm, at least in the beginning, is Tegnaria domestica. Tenegaria. I don't know how to say that. Tegnaria domestica. That's the most common house spider in America. He's a hard worker. Whenever his web is damaged, he immediately begins repairing it." "Oh, so you could harvest lots and lots of the silk," said Annabelle. "Exactly." Auntie Sarah smiled at her. Later, once the farm has been established, I want to build up various herds, since different kinds of spiders produce different kinds of silk, but that's all in the future. I plan to start small and grow. Also, I want to study spiders up close to find out how they're able to crawl straight up doors and walls and how they dangle from high places. Just think, if dolls could do that. Oh, imagine the benefit to doll kind. If there were doll history books, said Annabelle, you'd be in the chapter about amazing women. Maybe you'd have a chapter all to yourself. Annabelle felt suddenly braver. After all, she was the niece of her very brave aunt. Let's get started, exclaimed Tiffany, standing up. So, are we going to look for that huge spider, or are we going to do something about the farm? Both, replied Auntie Sarah. What I'd like to do tonight is keep a log of all the spiders we see. I want to get an idea of how many kinds there are up here, for one thing. If we do spot Dolomites tenebrosus, well, that would be a cause for celebration. So let's start looking. Call me even if you see a spider web. I can tell by a web what kind of spider made it. Tiffany and Annabelle and her aunt split up and started searching the dark corners and hidey holes of the attic. Every few moments, someone would call out, here's a web, or what kind of spider is this? Or I see something over there. And Auntie Sarah would investigate and make notes in her journal. Much later, Annabelle was noticing that the light in the attic was growing stronger when two things happened at once. Tiffany said, gosh, I think it's getting late. We better start back downstairs. And Auntie Sarah said, oh, my heavens, I believe that's the web of Dolomites tenebrosus. Where? Cried Annabelle. Annabelle, there? Yes, said Auntie Sarah, sounding greatly excited. And Annabelle, determined to show Tiffany and her aunt that she wasn't afraid of enormous spiders, ran across the attic floor, stumbled on a scrap of carpet, and fell headlong into the web. Uh-oh, she said, as she sat up. She began to pull at the sticky wisp of silk that covered her face and hair and clothing. The web was ruined. So Annabelle fell down in the web, and then she was trying to pull herself back up, and the web broke. Oh, I'm so sorry, Auntie Sarah. Auntie Sarah pressed her hands together and said briskly, it's all right, Annabelle. What's done is done. Annabelle got to her feet. Tiffany and Auntie Sarah were staring at her. They stood just inches away, but for a moment Annabelle felt as if she were high in the soap dish again, set apart from the others who were playing below. So another time Annabelle is feeling kind of separate or a little different and distant from the brave people that she admires the most, like Auntie Sarah and Tiffany. So we're still kind of exploring this dynamic of Annabelle feeling less than them, like she really wants to show them that she's brave and tough, but she kind of messing up that spider web that Auntie Sarah really wanted to see, but it's okay. I bet she's thinking about it more than they think she is. So we will continue with chapter 3 tomorrow, and we've heard about Auntie Sarah's spider farm plan. It's interesting, but I don't know. Chapter 3 tomorrow is called A Close Call, and I want to give you a hint. Of course, when you hear a close call, you mean like something's about to happen and then it doesn't, like, whew, that was a close call. I'll give you a hint that it is a close call. They are almost caught doing something, and then because of that, some dolls might end up somewhere else completely different. So I'm going to tell you for today. So I'll see you back here tomorrow, and we will read chapter 3. Y'all have a great day. Bye.